Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing the greatest comic book film of all time, Morbius. It's currently sitting at a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes, so clearly it's a very misunderstood movie. Now, of course, I'm kidding. This movie isn't very good at all. It's actually one of the worst ever reviewed comic book movies of all time. Now, I know everyone wants to know, is it really that bad, or are the reviews a little bit over-exaggerated? And I'll definitely let you guys know whether or not that's the case. But anyways, this movie is about Jared Leto playing Dr. Michael Morbius, who is a world-renowned doctor who has a rare blood disease, and to try and find a cure, he conducts a dangerous experiment involving bat DNA, which turns him into the Spider-Man villain Morbius the Living Vampire. Now, the way I want to structure this review is first talking about the characters in the movie, then the story, then the VFX and action, and then giving you my final review of the movie out of 10. So let's go ahead and start with the main character, of course, which is Michael Morbius. I honestly think Jared Leto had a solid performance as Michael Morbius. He just didn't really have to do anything spectacular. It seemed like a really chill role for him, like he didn't really have to do too much, so that's why I think he had a good performance, because it honestly probably wasn't that hard for him. But regardless, his story arc is basically he's got this rare blood disease, and then he uses bat DNA, turns into a living vampire, goes around killing some people, and has to fight someone in the movie, and then the movie ends. That's really it. And for some reason, I didn't feel that connected to Michael Morbius. Like, there was a relationship in the movie that I felt pretty connected to, but everything other than that, I was like, like this character is very meh, like I just didn't really care. Now, the relationship that I'm talking about is his relationship with a character by the nickname of Milo, who's the antagonist in this movie, and he's played by Matt Smith, and I honestly thought this was one of the better performances in the whole movie. Every scene that Matt Smith's character was in was actually pretty decent. Now, there were a few scenes that I was like, oh my god, like what are they doing in this movie? And those scenes were from Matt Smith. They just felt a little bit out of place and a little bit too silly, but at the same time, it's Sony, so like, you know, I just came to expect something like that. But overall, I think his relationship with Michael Morbius was the strongest part of the movie. Like, they grew up together as kids, and they both had the same blood disease, and you really get a strong sense of brotherhood between the two characters, which I honestly wasn't expecting, and I think that's the best part of the movie in my opinion. Next, let's talk about Martine Bancroft, played by Adria Arjona. This is essentially Michael Morbius's somewhat love interest in the movie. It's his partner in the lab, and to be honest, I didn't really buy the whole romance. It felt really forced. Like, there was maybe one, maybe two scenes where I was like, okay, maybe. Everything else, though, was super forced. I think the character of Dr. Bancroft was actually done pretty well in the movie, too. Like, she actually had a pretty large part in the film. She was in it from the beginning to the end, really, and was a very strong supporting character for the movie. Although she didn't really have that much to do. Like, she was really just helping out Michael Morbius, and then something happens which could turn into something a lot bigger in the future. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil what that is, but decent performance overall. I just wish she had a little bit more to do, or at least made that love interest storyline a little bit stronger. The next character that I want to talk about is played by Jared Harris, who is actually a really great actor, but they didn't really give him that much to do in the movie. Like, he was almost like the father figure for Morbius and Milo, and he's really just there to be a little bit of a moral compass, but also just for very generic stuff, like helping them out with medicine. And I think it was just a really wasted opportunity. Like, this guy could have had a lot more screen time. I really think he was in the movie for maybe 4 or 5 minutes, but in those minutes he didn't really have anything that important to do. Next is Tyrese Gibson playing Simon Stroud, who is a cop. Big wasted opportunity here. Tyrese Gibson is such a funny guy, and they didn't give him almost any comedic lines at all. I can't even recall one, and he was barely in the movie. Like, he maybe had about 5, maybe 6, 7 minutes, and really wasted character overall. A lot of the comedic scenes were given to his police partner, who's played by Al Madrigal, who is Agent Rodriguez in the movie, and this character was really weird too, because he was the comedic relief, but he just wasn't that funny. I think there was maybe one joke in the entire movie that made me laugh, and he, I think, went for laughs maybe like 9 times in the movie, so the fact that I only laughed at one is kind of sad. But yeah, that's the main cast that I want to talk about in this movie. To sum it all up, I would say everyone gave a decent performance, but nobody gave an amazing performance, which really makes the movie feel kind of flat, because there's never a character that comes on screen and you're like, oh my god, these scenes are amazing. You're kind of just sitting there watching everyone just give a very boring, basic performance. Now on to the story, which is the weakest part of the entire movie right here. It's very jumbled, it's edited in a way way that's very strange. It's very generic and predictable too. Like, after watching the first 5 minutes, I already knew exactly what was going to happen for the next hour and a half, almost to a T, which shouldn't happen in a movie. Audiences want to be surprised and be on the edge of their seat, and with this movie I wasn't. I already knew exactly what was going to happen, which is really unfortunate because Morbius is a really cool Marvel character and they definitely could have put a lot of surprises in there. Really, Morbius is just a dude with a blood disease. He tries to fix it, mixes his DNA with bat DNA, becomes a vampire, fights someone, and then the movie's done. And the way that it ends, it just, oh my god, it really bugged me. It was literally like they should have had another 10 minutes maybe to wrap it all up, but the way it ends is just like, okay, something's gonna happen, and it's just like, boom, credits, and I was like, oh my god, like, what is this, Sony? Next, let's talk about VFX in action, because this is a comic book movie, and you are expecting some good action in these types of films, and unfortunately, you don't really get it in this movie. Like, there was one scene in this entire movie that actually got me kind of excited for Michael Morbius in live action, and that was the boat scene that was literally posted on YouTube a few months ago. Other than that, all of the other fight scenes just weren't that good, and part of that is because of the VFX, because some shots looked really good. Like, a lot of the close-up shots of Morbius actually was really impressive, and I was like, damn, like, if the whole movie is like this, it could be pretty good, at least for the action scenes and the VFX, but it is just really inconsistent. Like, some shots you're like, damn, this looks so good, and then the other shots you're like, oh my god, how did this, go to theaters? Especially because this movie was postponed for almost like 2 years. You'd think the VFX would be top-notch because they had so much extra time to work on it, but I don't know how they messed that up, but they definitely did. A lot of the fight scenes too, because of the VFX, were just super blurry, and they were at night, which was a big complaint that Venom 1 had. You can barely see what's going on, and the camera always switches out from these weird shots. Like, it's really shaky cam, then it's like a POV shot, and it just doesn't look good. I'm just very confused how these shots didn't look good, because like I said, they had so much extra time to work on this. The fact that everything just wasn't top-notch, like to perfection, just really bugs me as a moviegoer. It's like, what were you guys doing for the past 2 years instead of perfecting the movie? Like, just cutting out all of the Spider-Man scenes? Because yeah, the rumors are true. There is almost no Spider-Man anything in this movie, which really sucks, because if you saw the first trailers, they were really banking on the whole Spider-Man connection stuff to really get the hype going for this Morbius movie, and the fact that it was almost like false marketing, we didn't see any Spider-Man anything, really sucks. And yes, that might be a vampire pun, but whatever. That pun itself was probably better than this movie. Now let's talk about the post-credit scenes, because these are some of the worst post-credit scenes I've probably ever seen in my entire life. They were just horrible, and they made zero sense, and they really contradict the rules from previous movies. I am going to talk a little bit in depth about them, just because the director himself has already spoiled the movie a ton and talked about these post-credit scenes, so I don't really consider this that much of a spoiler, but if you haven't seen what they are, then just mute the video or skip a little bit further ahead. I'll raise my hand like this when I'm done talking about it. Yeah, these scenes suck. The first one was Michael Keaton just magically popping into a jail cell in the Sonyverse and then just saying like, I hope the food's better in this joint, and I'm like, how did somebody write that? How did somebody, like, an actual professional movie screenwriter put that there and was like, yeah, this is cinema, let's do this? I was shocked. I was like, oh my god, this guy didn't say what's going on, like, what's happening, where am I? None of that. He's just, hope the food's better here. Like, what the hell, Sony? So that one was already bad enough. Then we get another one, which was Sony basically just shoehorning a Sinister 6 idea right at us again. And that was Michael Morbius just driving in a car in the middle of nowhere, looks like he's in like a desert or something, meets up with Michael Keaton's Vulture in a Vulture suit, which makes no sense because it was from Chitauri Tech from the MCU, which the Avengers and the Chitauri and everything just don't exist in the Sonyverse, so I don't know how this guy made a Vulture suit. Plus, he doesn't know how to make that suit because he got the Tinkerer to make it for him in the MCU, so I'm just confused. The director said he's a resourceful guy, that's how he justified him having a Vulture suit, which that doesn't make sense either. But yeah, that's not even the worst part of this post-credit scene. I mean, like, it was pretty bad, but the worst part is he's like, I don't know how I got here, but I think it has to do with Spider-Man, so let's make a team, meaning like the Sinister Six. Now keep in mind, Morbius has no idea who Spider-Man is, or at least we don't think he does, and he just looks at Michael Keaton's Vulture and says, Intriguing. Why would this guy want to join the Sinister Six? I don't know, because it's clearly established that he doesn't want to be a villain. He doesn't want to be killing people. He doesn't want to be doing the wrong thing. He is an anti-hero. He's really just a hero with a bloodlust problem. So the fact that he's going to join up with Michael Keaton as a villain and make a villain team, the Sinister Six, makes no sense to me. And you would think that Morbius would be like, what do you mean? Like, who's Spider-Man? What are we doing? Michael Keaton says, let's do some good, which obviously I don't think he means actual good, so why would Morbius want to be a part of that? I don't know. But yeah, those two post-credit scenes were just absolutely horrible. They made no sense. And if they even tried to explain it, I think it's going to be a kind of half-ass explanation too, because in the MCU, it was clearly established that the characters that knew Spider-Man were being dragged into the MCU, so it makes no sense that Michael Keaton's Vulture just randomly went the reverse Uno and went into the Sonyverse. But yeah, that's my little rant on the post-credit scene. I just really didn't like them. And if Sony does want to do this Sinister Six thing again, they definitely need to collaborate with Marvel, because the way that they're going right now, I think it is just going to be an absolute train wreck. Like, yeah, it'll be cool to see Spider-Man go up against the Sinister Six, but if the characters, like the villains, aren't clearly established and have good stories and everything, nobody's really gonna care. But yeah, that's my little rant. I'll put my hand up here so you guys know that I'm done talking about spoilers. So yeah, overall, I think this movie was okay. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting, to be completely honest, either. Like, I thought I was gonna just hate every single scene. But somewhere in this movie, there was actually a somewhat decent movie. Like, I would say it was maybe a 6 out of 10 if Sony didn't edit the crap out of this movie. There was a lot of scenes that were just like jumping. It was just like, you know, something said, boom, we're somewhere else, story, action scene somewhere else, and it was just very, very choppy. So like I just said, I do think there was a 6 out of 10 movie somewhere in this on the editing floor. Unfortunately, based off of the movie I saw in the movie theater, I'm going to have to give this movie a 4 out of 10. It's somewhere between okay and terrible. It's right bang in the middle. There's some scenes that I enjoyed, there's some scenes that I hated. It's one of those movies that you've got to just completely turn off your brain and just watch this dude mix his DNA with bats and run around being a vampire with a lot of things that don't make sense. Like, there's some rules in here that, you know, they say it, then it doesn't make sense because someone breaks it, and it is just a really strange movie, because like I said, I think there was a decent movie somewhere out there with those Spider-Man connections and a story that made a little bit more sense, and more runtime was needed for sure, but I don't know what happened, and I didn't really enjoy it. Like, I'll probably watch it maybe one more time in my entire life, maybe before the Sinister Six movie, if that thing ever happens. But to be completely honest, if I never saw Morbius again in live action, I don't think I would be that disappointed. So guys, that is my review for Morbius. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought about the movie if you checked it out this weekend. Did you think it was as bad as the reviews are saying, or did you actually enjoy it? I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I actually enjoyed this movie, and, you know, kudos to you. Like I said, there were a lot of scenes that I did like, and, you know, you might be someone that enjoyed the whole movie. That's awesome. I really hope that Sony can pull off a Sinister Six, hopefully in collaboration with Marvel Studios. I just want to see an amazing Sinister Six movie involving some awesome characters and character development and stories and all of that good stuff. But I think if Sony has 100% creative control of that, it's just not going to be as good as it ever could be. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. Thank you again for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like and subscribe. I'll be posting my Sonic 2 review very soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But for now, that's the end. Thank you again for watching. I hope you guys all have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video.